All right. So today we are going to talk about imposter syndrome. We published an article a couple of weeks back. It got a lot of interest and it seemed to resonate with a lot of people who had wrestled with this very problem themselves. And so we wanted to unpack that a little bit more. And so, first question over to you, sir.
I'm
If you're
ready.
going into a new job, is new jobs happen every couple of years, probably for some people. If you're going into that new job, that's a prime time opportunity for imposter syndrome to rear its ugly head. How do you go about taking the next step? Is that a sign you're on the right track, or is it a sign you should not be going into that role?
Oh no, I think that's a sign that that's the right role. So I think if you're going into a new role, feeling comfortable,
Yeah.
yeah, I mean I can't even imagine. Like I personally cannot imagine what that would be like. Just walking into a new organization, a new role, a new team, a new everything, and just feel like Psh, I got
I got this.
no no worries. I'm gonna take a nap. I'll be right back. No, yeah, I think if you're feeling imposter syndrome as you stroll in, that's yeah, that's fully normal. That's the way things should be. I think the main thing is how you how you allow that to affect your performance in the new role, right? And so for me, with with a lot of internal talking to myself, I would I
You should talk to somebody about that.
what's that?
I said you should talk to somebody about that. Those voices in your
Well,
head.
I'm using them in a positive manner. But seriously, like you have to take those the your internal voice that's telling you, this is not right. You're not. This is not for you. You're not adequate, and use that to drive the work that you have to do. And so I just saw this morning a Facebook reel, and I can't remember. I wish I could quote it, but the gist of it was one of the top three attributes of successful people is inadequacy,
Mm.
because they take that feeling of inadequacy and it never allows them to kind of rest on their laurels. It always pushes them forward to make things happen, and to try and live up to feel adequate with the folks that are around them, and for widely successful people that never goes away.
Yeah, I like that. I think there's, and that kind of touches on something. One of the other questions we'd specked out going into this, but the whole concept of like the advantages of imposter syndrome, like why it's not a bad thing to deal with imposter syndrome. And when I wrote up the article originally, I'd done my research and reflected on my own experience. And one of the things that I found really striking in the research I was doing was a lot of some of these social psychologists or organizational psychologists that are putting out some of these studies, citing things like you're going to be a better critical thinker. You're going to be you are going to bring a diverse perspective to your team because of your imposter syndrome. And that's such a it feels counterintuitive if you're the one wrestling with it. Yeah, of
Yeah,
course, because why in the world would I have a valuable perspective? I'm not good enough. It's I don't have what it takes. Yada yada yada. We know whatever that negative self talk is in your head. So I find that really encouraging and really fascinating all at the same time.
yeah, definitely. I mean, that's the I think the self talk. So I mentioned this in my reaction. The self talk for me, one of the things that I like to do is I gave a speech at Drexel about imposter syndrome,
Yeah.
and and so like when I wrote the speech, it was I felt like it was really good advice, for new. It was a keynote to the graduation, so I felt like it was good advice for new graduates. But I'd find myself listening to it because the same deal, like if like I said it, and I know that I was there when I said it, and I know that I believed it when I said it, and here I am struggling with the same stuff I said. Don't let yourself get bogged down by. And so yeah, it's hard, man. It's hard to just to say I'm going to overcome this. You have to work through it.
Yeah. Yeah, you really do. And I guess that teases out this next question. Like, so, you're in the job, you're doing the thing, and, new project comes your way, thing inevitably changes, whatever the situation is, like, what do you do to kind of work through it then? You've already got your team dynamic set, the culture is set, all of that stuff is kind of happening already. And, people already have opinions of you. You're not coming in fresh with, the opportunity to make a first impression, whether good or bad. And I think that's different. And it's unique in some ways because you're not sort of like psyching yourself up to go in on day one or your first 90 days or whatever, but you're dealing with all of this existing baggage, so to speak, both around you and within you now. And that I think is something. It's a different beast, even though we call it the same thing.
Yeah, yeah. So when I was thinking about this question, one of the first thing that came to mind for me was meditation, right? Because I think for me, for better or
Are you
worse,
a
right? I
meditation
spent
guy?
I spent 20 years as street cop in Philly. Like we don't meditate. Like you go right, and it's just not macho enough. All that nonsense, right?
Yeah,
And
sure.
so and I remember when I started to meditate, it was just, it's such a change, right? Such a surprising change for me. But I think it like taking that kind of to its next level, and really thinking about stepping back, and you hear about this from 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 athletes who visualize the game to who visualize an entire game to player on the free throw line closing his eyes and visualizing the ball goes in right before he shoots it. And I think that kind of it changes your thinking from I can't, right? And and that might be into the new role, and that might be at what we're talking about now. And I think it might be more valuable into a new project or something like we're talking about, just because I could visualize where I work and things that are going to happen, and what kind of what success is going to look like, and
Yep.
how I'm going to deal with those roadblocks. And so putting those kind of positive thoughts into your head, I feel like brings out a lot of positivity, and and kind of mashes down the negative.
Yeah. I personally like to. I'm a journaling guy. Or I like to write, and so one of the things I like to do. I won't say every morning because I'm not as consistent as I would like to be, but most mornings is I've got a
Same.
couple of those daily read things. I kind of run through those, do a little bit of journaling, reflect on what was in those things, and and then also just things that are going on in life that day, what have you. And something that comes to mind as you're talking through that, I love the athlete example, but we work in front of desks, and
Indeed.
in and in this day and age, post COVID, we might just be stuck at home. And so our visualization may not be nearly as exciting as that which an athlete could do. So, I was just kind of thinking through as you were talking, what are the things that we would visualize as a part of our flow? And maybe it's how you're going to run a meeting, how you'd like that meeting to go. Maybe it's some kind of public speaking thing. Maybe it's some kind of key interaction that is not, I'm going to write this email with such finesse. I'm going to, do this thing that's more asynchronous, because those things are just, I feel like that's more getting your headspace right to just step through the day and work with excellence. But then the visualization is something that can really help when you are having those live engagements with other people, whether it's in a meeting or you're speaking on something or whatever that thing happens to be.
Yeah, I think so. For me, I think like more day to day, like mindfulness is about is general, right? Like relaxed. Today's going to be a good day. That those type of things, and then when the stress is at the high, right? When the imposter syndrome really kicks in, then then I start to kind of get more into something tactical, right? Thinking about you know like thinking about how I'm going to open a meeting, right? Or like, how it's going to go, who's going to be there, and if you're in the organization already, kind of you probably have an idea of the players, how they're going to
Yeah.
react, how they're going to receive the information, what kind of organizational dynamics are in, and and I guess that's a lot to think about when you're meditating, right? Like, you're trying
Yeah,
to
sure.
kind of put your thoughts, uh, quiet your brain a little bit. But I think when your brain is quiet and you could really kind of think about that, at least for me, with that helps with that helps me go into the situation with a little bit more confidence, because I feel like it's better thought out than here I am. Oh no, I'm still not prepared, right? I'm still not adequate for this. I feel like I put some time into it, because there's only so much time you can put into preparing for something like that.
Hmm.
So much reading, so many videos, so much stuff that you can do. But I feel like, for me, that kind of mindfulness and meditation on how it's going to go, and what I want to accomplish and things like that that's really important for me.
Yeah. So I'm gonna bring this back to two very wise people, and the first is my wife, because if she listens to this, I'm gonna get brownie points. But
Nice.
so
I
yeah.
hope the second is my
Uh,
wife then.
so so she gave me a really great piece of advice, any kind of public speaking thing that I do. And that advice was like, know the very first thing you're going to say and have that just rehearsed, scripted on lockdown, and then know the very last thing you're going to say. So at least, you kind of have this sandwich of preparedness. And that relates to the second wise person. You're familiar with Bill Walsh, I assume, former San Francisco coach. Yeah. So he had this approach to his game planning strategy that was, he knew the first 25 plays that he was going to run. Just that was decided. Didn't matter what happened. He was going to run those first 25 plays. That's it. And then after that, things kind of happen, they evolve, you adapt, and all of that. But you've got a plan going in, and that's your thing. So
I love that.
I love that. Like having that you don't have to figure everything out, but figure out enough that you can kind of get yourself off on the right foot and have confidence doing so.
Yep. Agree.
Yeah,
I should have been a football coach.
yeah, I love it. All right, so we're going to wrap it up. We're at 15 minutes. So thank you so much, everyone, for dialing in, listening in, watching, however you chose to consume this particular episode. Again, this is the Soft Side of Cyber podcast. I encourage you, if you listened and liked this, subscribe, share it, like it, comment. All that stuff helps other people find it. And we so appreciate your time and hope you got some value out of this. Again, my name is Rob Wood. This is Frank Domizio. We are Soft Side of Cyber. Thank you and have an awesome day.